Hello again, and welcome back to the shop. New day, new bin. I've let this other bin dry off for a couple days now, and I think I'm going to give it a try. I've run a couple through. I end up with some of these marbles left over, but I'll just leave them in here in the bin for the new bin. And just thought I'd show you like the process of how I do it here. This light been shining down on these worms for, I don't know, about an hour or two maybe, and that, you know, makes the worms go down, which leaves the very top of the material pretty much worm free. So if you take and you just scrape the very top, that's what I do. I usually just scrape it into a pile, and you can see I'm not getting any worms. And then as you get down, now the light's hitting this lower level, forcing them down even further. And so by the time I sift this pile, any worms that were close to the surface here will be down even further. And so you pretty much can just keep on, you know, scooting the stuff into a pile and sifting and getting your castings separated. Pretty quick process when you do it this way. The biggest thing I like about it is you don't have to deal with many worms. They just go down, stay in their bin. You don't have to traumatize them by shaking them around in your grater. I use this rubber coated one if I'm doing more damp material. It's a little less traumatizing should a worm get on there. I've seen people use hardware cloth to sift their worms, and they just throw the whole batch in there, and there's hundreds of worms, and they shake them back and forth on that hardware cloth. I don't know if you've ever seen hardware cloth, but man, that stuff is pretty gnarly. And yeah, I always imagine take the most sensitive part of your body and rub it back and forth on that thing as quickly as what they're running that sifter back and forth, and see how you like it. And of course I'm talking about your tongue. Just take your tongue and just run it back and forth on that hardware cloth and see how it feels. So I don't like to use hardware cloth, and I try to not get any worms at all in my sifter, just so that they don't get shaken back and forth. And you know, I wouldn't like it, so I'm sure they don't like it. So by using the light to drive them down, I usually don't have to deal with any worms, or not many. Usually if I see them in there, I'll go ahead and pick them out. And in this bin, I've put some food over on this side a couple days ago, so all the worms are, not all the worms, a lot of worms have come over here to where the food is. So that's just the side that I'm going to keep for the recycling when I add the paper. This is the side that's going to have the castings in it for the new bin, where the other day I piled them up in that corner, in the other bin, and that bin I piled them up over here in this corner. Today I'm going to try to pile them up over here. There's a little food over here, and so as you can see, that's kind of where I've been piling these castings up. I'm a little ways away from my bucket that I used to dump the marbles in last time, so I'm just going to try to keep them in the same bin this time. But once I get my bucket full, I just put it down. In this case, I'm using a brand new bag because I don't want this wetter, clumpier stuff to end up in my more fine sifted castings. So this time I'm using a new bucket. Sift all the loose castings through, and then I'm left with all these marbles, which is just little chunks of food that the castings stick to, and sometimes they just, from the moisture, whenever you shake it back and forth, they roll up into a ball and it leaves these little marbles. I'll just leave the marbles. Oh, poor wormy. Well, there was one worm in that one. He'll be alright. Like I said, I used the rubber coated one, so it's not quite so sharp. Another worm down in here. No, that's not a worm. Alright, so then you just keep going, just keep scraping right off the top. Make a new pile. And you shouldn't see too many worms. They should be going down from the light. And you just keep doing this till you get all the way down to the bottom. And it makes for a nice quick way to collect your castings. And again, if you weren't sifting, you just take this whole pile and put it straight into your collection bucket, and no worms to worry about. So let me know if you find my method helpful to you at all. I'll leave a comment if you want to. I'm not going to record this whole process, but I just want to show you guys that I was starting on this secondary bin, and I guess that's it. We'll see you on the next one.